Okay, hello you filthy Wolceners this time. I'm probably only going to do this one build guide for Wolcen because at the current point in the game there's not a lot of point past playing a different build. What I've pretty much put together here is just a face tanking god that can never die. You know, we're talking about 18,000 HP, so, you know, and just more stupid DPS. Where is it? DPS. Yeah, so average damage, it's just, yeah, like when you're hitting for 20,000 and you can't die, essentially, there's not much more you can really do with that. Anyway, okay, so for this Blood Knight build, pretty much we're going to be throwing our bleeding edge axes around, and they're just going to continue to spiral and absolutely destroy everything, as you would have seen in the B-roll at the start. So there is one key node, and there is a reason why I'm using a shield, because there is a node that currently breaks this game, but I'll explain that very shortly. So basically, pretty much the gearing that we're going to use for this build is you're just going to want any old sword. Realistically, you just want the highest amount of DPS that you can possibly get on a sword. This game's stats aren't very complicated, so more DPS is good. So obviously this one does up to 182, so that's plenty sufficient. You can use an axe, whatever the hell else you want to use. I just had this drop while I was doing a whatever the in-game mission is called. What are they called? Expedition. So I was like, fuck yeah. Now, secondly, you're gonna want rage generations if you can get it on your rings. And in this case, I lucked out and got a Seven Sisters pact ring. And that's pretty much perfect for this build. So it's going to give you nearly 700 HP, it's going to give you 2% global leech, 58 health regeneration, 15 rage on kill, which is huge amounts of rage. So I'm hoping a second one of these drops, and then I'll switch that to a second one. For your boots, doesn't really matter, just movement speed. If you can get attack speed score on there, even better. For your greaves, you're going to want bruiser greaves, or you're going to want heavy greaves. Pretty much you just want attack speed score and maximum resist and any health that you can get on there. Belt, pretty much you just want maximum health, rage generation. If you can get attack speed score, get it. Physical damage, get it. Rage generation on hit, get it. For your chest, heavy plate, again, attack speed score, resource generation, or resist is pretty much what you want on this. Your helm, you're going to want, again, health regeneration or resist and any attack speed score that you can get. Your shoulders, I lucked out, I got one that does 18% rage cost reduction, but pretty much same thing, resistance, HP, rage generation. And for your gauntlets, you're going to want attack speed score, you're going to want resistance, any ferocity and damage that you can get on your gauntlets, and any HP that you can get on that. So pretty much, yeah, you're maxing that out. Your amulet, rage generation, health regeneration, you're going to want attack speed score. If you can get critical hit chance or critical hit damage, yep. And I think we've already went over rings, so we don't need to go through that again. That's pretty much the gearing. So there's not really much to it, which is why I didn't want to go crazy with a crazy build guide. Pretty much for this build, HP, attack speed score, movement speed on your boots, HP, and or resist, and any rage generation that you can get is the 6 points that you're going to want. And there is no real min and maxing or specific gearing or anything like that. Everything is going to be randomized, and right now there's absolutely no balance in your gear. The key stat which is going to top your DPS out is going to be on your shield though, and there's a reason why, and I'll explain that now. So when we look at our tree, and I'll explain this tree shortly, there is a single node which breaks shield wielders, and it's this here, Bane of Tyranny in the Siege Breaker cluster. So damage is increased by a multiple of 50 by your shield's block chance. So what's that? If we get out of this menu, if we go back to my shield's block chance, it's 21.5, right? And if we get a calculator, 21.5 times 50. That's your DPS that your shield gives you. So pretty much as soon as you take that node, you're a god. And this applies from doing Act 1, and you'll get that node before at about level 18, 19. Once you get that node, that's it. You can just breeze through the rest of the game. If you have a look at my gameplay for killing the final Act 3 boss, this is essentially the build that I used to do that. And it's just crazy. So realistically, it doesn't really matter what you put on here. That's just going to completely break your damage output, and that's what makes this build just absolutely ridiculous. But I'll go into the tree next. So just going through what skills I'm using, realistically you only need 2 skills. You're going to want Bleeding Edge. That's just for your axes. This is Bleeding Edge. And then obviously you're going to level this up as you go. Your 3 key nodes are Unstoppable Momentum. You're going to want Astral Orbit, so your axes now run around with you. Unstoppable Momentum keeps them spinning around you. And then Cyclonic Expansion, which means they're just going to whirl around wider and wider and kill everything in the radius. And the other thing you're going to want is Blood for Blood. So pretty much when you go to a boss, you're going to want to drop this down, and this is when you're doing the act. When you get into and you would have seen in the gameplay footage, it's pointless at the point that I got it to. And then you're going to want to drop your axes. And basically what this means is when you drop that aura, it's going to increase health regeneration for yourself based on how many enemies are in the area. Enemies have a 10% chance to cull with Unstoppable Flesh. And Spontaneous Brio is going to increase your rage generation. Then we've got Conniption, which means that you do 200% weapon damage when you cast, which is inflicted, which that damage inflicts your missing health as that multiple of that damage. However that works. I don't know what this weapon damage multiplier 200% interacts with your missing health portion, whether or not if you're missing 10% of your health, if that's a multiplier of with the weapon damage or whatever, but that pretty much increases your damage. And then obviously some increased duration, which is Grip of Agony. I'm running Juggernaut just for a little bit of additional sort of fucking around. Sovereign Shout just for generating rage. Warpath just for generating rage, but realistically I never even use these skills because there's absolutely no point in using them. I don't use Wings of Ishmar, and Anvil's Woe is pretty much how I leveled this up. So basically all you need is Bleeding Edge and Blood for Blood, and this build is basically a god build with just those 2 skills. Sorry, I just put my phone on silent. Okay, so that's pretty much the gear, which isn't very hard. The 2 skills that you need, you're just going to put them on your mouse basically. And so if we go to the tree, okay, so let's have a look at this tree. So, oh, pardon me. Right, so obviously we have our starting area in the center. We're going to start on red nodes. Now, we need to move the tree into the right sort of location to start with to get the nodes that we want. And there's that one node, as I've already discussed, in particular that we really want to pick up. And that node is this node here, the Bane of Tyranny. So, first of all, you're going to want to essentially align your tree so that the Siegebreaker nodes are pretty much following a single path here. So, and also you're going to want to have your Praetorian node. Let's use these anchor nodes as the key ones that we want to move around. So, in our first tree, so we want to keep our tree like this. We want to keep the soldier nodes in the same spot. We want to keep our Praetorian nodes, and where I'm looking at that, see the text in red, in orange. We want to move the Praetorian nodes so that they're sitting right underneath the soldier nodes, and then we want to move the Siegebreaker nodes so that they're sitting right underneath the Praetorian nodes. And essentially, the build sequence will be Going through the capable node, down to quick draw, we want to pick up second wind, and that'll be our first sequence here. And then we want to go straight down, follow this, straight down. We want to follow this pathing here, down here, until we get to our Bane of Tyranny. We pretty much want to rush this node, so the sooner that you get to this node, the better. Then we're going to pick up this belligerent banner, and that's going to give us fortress stacks, which are basically increasing our block chance by 4% per fortress stack, and that passively just regenerates while you're not being hit. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're also going to want to come back and pick up the heat of the battle node, and this is going to give us rage. We're going to generate rage per hit taken, so because we're a tank, we're going to get hit, and that's going to give us more rage. You're going to pick up these rage and movement speed and conservation nodes. Then we're going to want to come back here and pick up selfless courage, and that means we're going to get 25% resistance for every time we block a hit, and because we're wearing a shield, we're going to block a lot of hits. Additionally, we're going to pick up this Praetorian node for Kingless Aegis here, and that's going to give us 6% additional block chance and allow any weapon to block. So it's going to increase our block chance again. Then basically we're going to pick up, I haven't yet built this out, we're going to build into Salvation Anchor as well eventually, but we're not quite there yet. Then essentially now looking at how they've suggested to build the tree, they want you to like build a node over here and then build nodes over here and then like pivot them around and link them for different situations. The mechanics currently where the game sits is that's trying to be way more complicated than what the game actually is. It's in no way a Path of Exile level tree. This tree, essentially, once you get that one node, really doesn't matter what you do after that. It's just going to make things move faster. And we'll go into what you should be stacking in the attribute points too. Realistically, what they should have done if they were going to do this tree was not put attribute points into this game, because it doesn't make a great deal of sense. Anyway, so once you pick up your Kingless Aegis, you're going to want to move back down here and get this this external discharge through to condenser and then static transferal, and that means you're going to create overlord stacks, and then they're going to potentially allow you to do double damage. So that's going to be pretty dope, and I believe you get overlord stacks as you do your normal attack. Then when you drop an ability, you'll have a potential, the skill will have the potential to do double damage. Then we'll move up the tree, we'll pick up this clandestine execution, so 25% damage when only one enemy is within a 7 meter range, so that's your boss killing node. So when there's only one enemy, being the boss, then you're going to do stupid fuck off damage to that boss. Then we'll move up and then we'll pick up this node cluster in here. Now we're going to want to follow this line here because we don't want any of these fire nodes, they're useless to us. So we want this fireproof into undying flicker, and then furious appetite, and that's going to switch your willpower and your rage. So now you generate rage constantly. So essentially, when you start a map, you'll have 100% rage. Your rage will essentially just increases your ability to constantly generate rage. So you'll never need to worry about too much balancing with willpower. You're still going to want to carry a rage potion around with you to generate more rage, but essentially that's all you need to get your rage up as you're killing enemies. Then you'll want to go to Child of Fury, and then you want to get Flurrying Flames, which is going to give you unleashed fury points as you hit enemies. That's going to increase your attack speed, your leech, at the expense of all resist. And because we're already building all resist as part of our build anyway, it makes absolutely no fucking difference if you take this, if you're negating some all resist, because essentially your character's a tank. This is just going to make you hit even harder. So then we're going to move up here. We're going to pick up these blue Kabbalist nodes. You're not going to need this Grievous Afflictions node. That's not useful at this point. And we're going to move all the way up to this Blood Rush node here. And then the build tree that we want to basically work off of here is we want this pugilist momentum node. And the reason why we want this pugilist momentum node is because we're running a one-handed weapon, every fourth hit is going to be a critical strike. So I'm not entirely sure if this applies to your skills. This may only apply to your single hit, but it means not only are your skills going to be powerful, your single hit, still standard, whatever you call it, normal hit is going to be powerful as well. So essentially you're going to take Arms Maester, that's going to increase your block efficiency, more health again. You're going to take Percussed Rebound, which is going to give you more block chance, another 6%, and then you're going to take Arms Maester. You'll even be able to, so the next move from there is going to be, because we've already picked up Arms Maester, you're going to want to pick up in Induration, you're going to want to pick up Sundering Precision, which is going to give you rend damage, and then you're going to want to pick up Proud Reprisal. That's going to give you 100% of weapon damage dealt to attacking enemy when their attack is blocked. So it's just going to increase your damage by 100% again. By this point, we're probably we're at level 45 or something like that. We'll have these nodes in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 51. You're going to have these nodes. At this point, even currently where I stand, I actually don't know what to do past this point because nothing in the end game is strong enough to kill me, and it's simply just pointless. So that's pretty... Oh, and I guess if we look at point spec ups, I've pretty much balanced between ferocity and toughness. I put a little bit into agility, but basically when I was leveling up from the very start, I threw a heap of nodes into toughness, because once you get that bloody Bane of Tyranny node, it doesn't make any difference. It just makes no difference. If anything, I would probably suggest to Wolcen Studios at this point to maybe nerf this node, because right now the end game is pretty trivial. In fact, it is completely trivial. There is just, you're just not going to die. Anyway, and obviously, if you want to know what your stacks are, these are your stacks based on those keystone nodes that I've discussed. So that's pretty much my build guide here. There's not really much to it. This game has a lot of balancing issues. Drops make no sense at this point. You can get weapons dropping in the campaign at level 20 that you could potentially use at endgame, as well as gear, just depending on the stat attributes. There are a lot of ambiguous stats, such as what attributes actually affect minions. So if you were running a necromancer, I know based off of logic, wisdom would be a realistic choice, but at the same time, do your minions stack based off of strength or ferocity? Toughness? I can understand a balance of toughness for health. Anyway, I'm a bit confused when it comes to minion builds in this. With Path of Exile, normally your minions stack based off physical damage attributes and whatnot. In this game, it's not quite clear, and there's not much clarity around it either. Anyway, if this build guide helps you sort of put together a crazy ass build, if you're really into Wolcen, this build will, I'm pretty much 110% sure that you'll be playing this. If you're playing it non-stop, you'll just get to level 90 in no time. As far as I've played, I don't know what the curve is from when you hit endgame to how difficult it can get. I'll keep playing till level 90 to see what the go is, because the new league for Path of Exile is about 3 weeks out at this point, so there's a little bit to go. But and then I'll probably switch back to PoE at that point, because I want to do a Sentinel build, a Guardian build for the next league, a Purity build. Anyway, if this build guide helps you, if it sheds a bit of light on what you need to build, if the tree is a little confusing because this game is sort of it hinges on the more Diablo sort of, I guess, playstyle, as opposed to Path of Exile. So the tree could potentially throw people off, but pretty much if you're running a shield build, you get that one node being this Bane of Tyranny, and you're pretty much a god for the rest of the game. So yeah. Anyway, if you like this video and if it is helpful in any way, like and sub. If you think this video is absolute shit, downvote me or whatever it is, dislike me to the shithouse. That helps me learn what you guys want to watch. Otherwise, put in the comments your thoughts. Pull me up if you think I'm talking complete shit. And yeah, until next time, bye.